Okay, starting off the news events with this item here. News outlets don't usually publish the F word. Then came Trump's Israel-Iran ceasefire rant. Yeah, if you didn't watch the news, you should be watching the news. But Trump very deliberately, this wasn't like accidental. He didn't like lose his temper. Like he clearly thought about this and said the F word on purpose in front of news cameras. And we are once again establishing new boundaries as to what is acceptable to say and what is not acceptable to say. The FCC has this thing called safe harbor. It's after 10 o'clock at night or before 6 o'clock in the morning. You are allowed to get away with more language than you would otherwise be allowed to use, with the belief that children are not watching television or listening to the radio at the time. That could be wrong. I'm just saying what the FCC's logic is. But yeah, Trump used this term, and many news outlets probably had to face an ethical decision about whether or not to use it. And I'm going to play the clip right here.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Now we have ratings information about Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And, the Oklahoma City Thunders won. And, you will find no bigger fan of the Oklahoma City Thunders than moi. If you've been tracking these videos, I have been in the Thunders camp from the beginning. No bigger Oklahoma fan than I. Now, the data here is a little example of framing, which I've talked about before. Viewership generally is down. Not as many people are watching sporting events as used to. However, in comparison to other things, sports is still very popular, and it's the only type of programming that people will watch live as it happens, which means they will watch the commercials. So in the age of DVRs and on-demand programming, sports is extremely, extremely valuable programming, which means whenever the rights for some sporting league come up for negotiation, the TV rights, they go up higher than the rate of inflation. They go up very much, very fast. Think about the rainforest. We have fewer rainforests than we used to a generation ago. Does that mean the remaining rainforest is less valuable or more valuable? I think because there are so few things that people will watch live, sports is actually more valuable. But here we have the NBA. This is the official positive buzz. The NBA generated a record 5 billion views and counting across all social media platforms, up 215% from last year. But then you also have this other headline. I saw this week saying, don't buy the spin, that 16 million viewers for Game 7 is the least watched Game 7 in NBA's final history. So different ways to interpret the same set of numbers. And it is not that people are not watching TV. It is that we are watching so many different things. Here we have an editorial. I'll summarize it quickly, which is about the fact that you need to pay so much money and have so many different sports packages if you want to watch all the professional sports. You used to be able to watch sports for free. Now you have to have these exclusive packages. NFL is going to have a game on Christmas. You got to have Netflix for that. You got to have Amazon Prime to watch the NFL on Thursday night, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This essay is arguing that we are losing something from society. We're losing an element of social cohesion. The fact that we cannot all get together and root for the same teams because we don't have the same sports packages on our Amazon Prime lineup or whatever it is. And that's what the graphic here illustrates, people behind a credit card. And I think there is something to be said for this argument that we are all divided up into our own little filter bubbles. However, you could also argue that if social cohesion is based on the fact that we're all sitting together and watching the same TV show, that doesn't feel like a very strong definition of society. But here I'm going to throw in this graphic, which I used in an earlier video lecture. Just to repeat, the long tail is the idea that in the old media model, the long tail is arguing against the old media model. The old media model, illustrated by the blue here, is that 20% of your inventory generates 80% of your profit. 20% of the inventory, the most popular items, the blockbusters, generate 80% of all the profit. But the argument now is that with the internet and the age of unlimited inventory, it's not truly unlimited, but almost unlimited. In the age of unlimited inventory, the way to capture a bigger audience is not to offer a handful of blockbuster titles, but to handle a more diverse group of niche on-demand programming that caters to some very specialized audience. For example, if there's 10 people out there who wanted to listen to Czechoslovakian trapcore, if that was a thing, then you can offer a whole bunch of that kind of stuff, and each little genre has its own little pocket of audience. But if you have enough of it, That's where your audience is. That's what's indicated by the red line here, kind of on the center going to the right. That's the long tail, is this exclusive content that attracts a niche audience. So it's not that blockbusters have died entirely. It's just that they are no longer the only show in town. Here we have some ratings information. And after last week, I think you understand what ratings mean. Beverly Hillbillies got a 34.9 rating. That's 34.9% of television household watched the Beverly Hillbillies in the 1963-1964 season. Granted, there was only 3 main TV channels at the time, so Beverly Hillbillies maybe should have had a 50 or 60 rating. Now we have some ratings for 2 weeks ago in June. The NBA Finals are at the top of the heap with 4.6 and 4.8. Those are monster numbers, but they're nothing like what sports used to get, a decade or 2 decades ago. It's not 20, 30, 40% of the audience. It's not even 5% of the audience. And these other hit shows, America's Got Talent, 60 Minutes, have less than 3. Anything that gets more than 1% of the audience is now considered a hit. Okay, so think about that as an example of the fractured audience. A hit show used to get 20, 25, 30% of the audience. Now, if you get more than 1%, because we have so many different things to watch. Okay, now this graphic is someone expressing outrage over Love Island, and we have this Palestinian contestant who is hooked up with Israeli. They call him a Zionist. That say he's an Israeli. He does have some connection, I think, to the Israeli Defense Force. Now, I just want to say, I try to keep these videos light. I'm very jovial, trying to tell jokes. I just want to say that if Love Island deliberately manufactured a hookup between a Palestinian woman and an Israeli, I find that to be unbelievably offensive. And I'm not joking, unbelievably offensive, okay? The genocide that's going on in Gaza, and I do believe it is a genocide. I'm not the only one who believes this. This is a massive slaughter of innocent Palestinian men, women, children, absolute genocide. To trivialize that for the sake of boosting ratings on a reality show just seems the height of unethical behavior. And then also I'm concerned about the representation of Muslims on television. How often are Muslims represented on mainstream American television? Not too often. Do you think it's generally positive? No, it's not. So you have this Muslim woman, I think maybe she's a villain, maybe she's got some questionable characteristics. But the fact that you have a Muslim woman on this major reality show, that should be a breakthrough. But now you have to drape the sort of like Middle East trauma on top of it. No, that's not right. They shouldn't do that. And I disagree quite strongly. Now, maybe Huda and this other guy just hooked up organically and the producers didn't manipulate it. That's possible. That's possible. Madeline asks, how real is reality TV? It varies and it depends, okay? Sometimes it's heavily scripted, sometimes it's soft scripted, sometimes it's outright manufactured. There is a term called frankenbiting. I only know the term frankenbiting because my wife, who was a producer for documentaries, she's also worked in unscripted television. She won't call it reality. She won't call it reality. My wife has worked in unscripted television. Frankenbiting is when you take sound bites from one event, mix them with visuals from maybe another event to create an incident that never actually happened, but it seems to the audience as if it actually happened. Or you take sound bites from different interviews and you join them together. It's called frankenbiting. Frankenbiting, okay? My wife was involved in a show. It aired on ESPN. She thought it was highly, highly unethical. This is when she explained the term frankenbiting to me. She did not want her name associated on the show. So when they got near crunch time to deliver a final product, someone said, "Oh, sorry, the show's running long. We don't have time to put credits on." My wife was like, "Perfect. Do not put my name on the show." So frankenbiting, that seems like a term I might ask you on the quiz. And just to come back to the issue of Muslims on reality television, there was a show on Hulu a couple of months ago, Muslim Matchmaker. And see that woman on the right side of the screen there? That is my wife, Mera Bivi Pakistani Hai. That's my wife, Sanan Keshki. Yes, she teamed up with the woman who created Indian Matchmaker. This was kind of a spinoff of Indian Matchmaker. She wanted to make it with Muslims, felt like she probably should hire a Muslim executive producer, hired my wife. So my insights into reality television and the representation of Muslims come from my wife, Sanan Keshki. Okay, now I'm going to go over the quiz questions. Okay, this quiz question I had to throw out because it actually turned out there were two correct answers. What is so noteworthy about the Chinese film Niza or Niza 2? I was hoping that people would go for the correct answer which was number three here, is the first film to make $1 billion in a single country. That's what I stressed, that this was the first film to make $1 billion in one country, the country being China. But you know what? It also is the highest grossing animated film ever. So a couple of people put that. Everyone got the points for that. So yeah, it's hard to write multiple choice questions, but everyone got the correct answer for this. This one is about ratings. Imagine that Oklahoma City is 1/3 the size of Indianapolis, just hypothetically, okay? Oklahoma City is 1/3 the size of Indianapolis. So if game 7 scored a 30 rating in Oklahoma City and a 10 rating in Indianapolis, which of these statements is true? If you understand statistics and math and the concept of rating, you should have been able to figure this one out. The correct answer is approximately the same number of viewers watch the game in each city. Approximately the same watched, approximately the same number of viewers. Now, prove that, Arsenault. I don't understand what you mean, Arsenault. Prove it. Okay, I'm going to prove it to you. All right. This is hypothetical numbers. I don't know if these are true or not, but let's say Indianapolis, 9 million people, Oklahoma City, 3 million people. So a 30 rating, if you did the math, and I did the math, a 30 rating would be 900,000. And then a 10 rating in Indianapolis would also be 900,000 if you understand percentages and the way things work. So approximately the same size audience in each city. That is the correct answer there. Okay, what's the most popular platform for people to listen to music? AM, FM radio. I asked this once before. People are still missing it. AM, FM radio. We have not gone to a streaming world yet with radio. AM, FM radio. This one, this one maybe a little bit tricky. From May 2025, how much video consumption in the US was done via streaming rather than broadcast or cable TV? 45%, which is higher than cable and broadcast TV combined. Okay, so the correct answer is 45%, which is higher than broadcast and cable TV combined. What is the most common metric used for the size of the radio audience? It's AQH share. We're still getting more than half the people in the class missing it. I think it's because in the lecture notes, rating, AQH rating, and then AQH share. But if you look under AQH share, it says common metric. Like AQH share is the standard metric. That is the correct answer. I might ask this one again, okay? This one, people are still missing this one. We're still getting a significant number of people in the class missing this. I've asked this question on every quiz, and it will be on every quiz, okay? According to Nielsen, how much TV does the average American watch on a daily basis? Oh, the average American aged 18 to 34. The average American aged 18 to 34, 3.5 hours. This has been on every quiz, and it's going to be on the next one, okay? 3.5 hours. You're not going to see this one again. I just like this question because it was a current event. What is the Chinese government doing with AI in relation to cinema? They're going to soup up and kind of tweak the audio and visual quality of these classic Kung Fu movies. Yes, they're going to re-release Kung Fu movies with increased audio and visual quality. Okay, on the pack back, I asked a question. I said, is there a TV show that you can remember watching, maybe more of a social experience? And a lot of people responded to that. I got a lot of good responses. I'm going to play several of those responses. The first one is, I thought this one was very touching. A student talks about watching The Rockford Files, which is a TV show I do remember watching when I was a kid. I think it was on in reruns, but I do remember watching it. A student was watching it with their father when the father was recovering from an illness. And I thought it was just a very touching little post. And then the one thing I also remember about the Rockford Files is that it always opened with a message on an answering machine. Maybe you know what answering machines are from watching old movies, but the answering machine messages were kind of funny. So I'm going to put in some answering machine messages into this video right here. What I've taken is several of the posts from this question about the TV show is a social experience, and I had artificial intelligence read them. And I didn't pick voices at random, but I was less concerned than I was last week about making sure that the voice matched up with maybe the identity of the person. I just had a little more fun with it. Carlos, the voice that ended up for yours is perfect. It's like kind of genius. And then the last one of these, I had AI. I used Google to translate the post into Spanish, and then I had AI read it. And I picked not just Spanish language, but like a Mexican accent. I don't know Spanish. Lo siento. Lo siento. I don't know Spanish. So if you do know Spanish, maybe on the pack back, respond like, is this Spanish sound accurate or does it sound robotic? Anyway, I just put together this little AI video. Hopefully you get a kick out of it.
When I was younger, my dad got sick with cancer and was bedridden for months after his surgery and throughout his treatment. It was hard for us to do the things we normally did together to bond, such as running or playing basketball, so we had to figure out new ways to spend time with each other that weren't so physically taxing. My dad asked if I wanted to watch an episode of this old TV show he used to watch, Rockford Files. That show became daily routine for us throughout his recovery and into remission.
This is Jim Rockford. At the tone, leave your name and message. I'll get back to you.
Jim, it's Norma at the market. It bounced. You want us to tear it up, send it back, or put it with the other?
Ended up watching Euphoria even though I never knew it existed. I personally had no interest in watching this show and didn't even know it existed until a bunch of my friends and I made a trip to LA for Disneyland. We were exhausted, and on the second to last day someone put the show on in the living room, and one by one we each just started migrating to the living room and ended up watching the entire season.
You really want Shim on the 7th? Come on, that nag couldn't go a mile in the back of a pickup truck. Call me.
Lately, I've been watching Love Island, a reality TV show currently airing. I was never particularly interested in the fandom before, but it has become such a widely shared group experience that I felt drawn in. Everywhere I go, whether it's at work training, with my roommates, or scrolling through social media, people are constantly talking about the show.
It's Andra. Remember last summer at Pat's? I've got a 12-hour layover before I go to Chicago. How about it?
This is the blood bank. If you don't have malaria, hepatitis, or TB, we'd like to have a pint of your blood.
I totally get what you mean. When I was younger, I would visit my grandparents in New York, and every night that the Yankees games were on, I would watch with my grandpa. My mom's whole side of the family is from New York, so they were very invested in the Yankees and their dynasty.
It's Doc Jones. What'd you do to the hand, son? 3 fractured knuckles. You hit somebody?
Hey, Jimmy. This here's Tina Scarrett. Remember me? From the Army. I'm stuck here in town. How about I come over and bunk with you, buddy?
I also jumped on the Love Island train after watching the last season with my cousins. The messiness and emotional turmoil of it all is arguably trashy, but undeniably engaging. With the release of the new season, my cousins and I make a whole event out of it and also invite our boyfriends to watch.
We aren't going to call again. Now you want these free lessons or what?
This is Mrs. Lindis. 3 times this month I come to clean and it always looks like people been fighting in there. Furniture broke, things tipped over. I'm sorry, but I quit.
I have never really been a huge fan of the fantasy genre in general, but when Game of Thrones was airing, I would watch purely for the social experience. All of my friends were watching it, so I ended up watching it too, just so I wouldn't be completely lost, bored whenever it came up.
Rockford, this is Mr. Dow. If you think I'm going to pay to have your car repainted, you're nuts. You can take your expense bill and stuff it.
Recuerdo cuando mis hermanas y yo solíamos sintonizar La Voz México juntas. Todas compartíamos la pasión por el canto, así que nos reuníamos a una hora específica y calificábamos a las concursantes según sus actuaciones y quienes creíamos que pasarían a la siguiente ronda. Al recordar esos momentos, los recuerdo con cariño. Momentos en los que podíamos reunirnos y conectar por algo que nos encantaba.
And then we have this question from Owen. What do you think the future of TV shows will look like with the uprising of AI? The great question, Owen. And I'm just going to throw in this right here, okay, we've already discussed earlier in the semester this concept of the filter bubble, that media outlets publish so much, each person acts as their own personal gatekeeper and filters the information. The danger is that we're only getting information which confirms our already existing worldview. Okay. And here we have, so yeah, a filter bubble. Here we have an image. I used AI to create this cartoon. And I had to like specifically ask the AI to give me a black woman as the character because the default image is a white man. I don't think it knows that I'm a white man. I think that's the default image for AI. Everybody's a white man, according to AI. So I picked this image and I said, make her listening to an FM transistor radio just because I'm a radio geek. But I think it turned out nice, but I had to specify that. So here we have a young woman in a filter bubble. So what is the future? What is the future of media with AI? We could get into a situation, going back to the long tail, going back to that earlier in the video. Each person is going to have a unique, customized, specialized, optimized feed of media content, customized just for them. Arsenault's feed is spaghetti westerns, Bollywood movies, maybe some clips from Buster Keaton, some Cajun music videos, bluegrass, Ramones, that's mixed in there. Turkish science fiction is going to be mixed in there too. That kind of stuff, because that's what Arsenault loves. There's a Turkish Star Wars movie that's epic, okay? But the point is that whatever feed you get is going to be different than the feed I get, and maybe there's going to be nothing in common. Is that the future? I don't know. I'm just saying it seems to be going in this direction. And then finally, I'll say I used AI to make this image. Where are the people of color in this image? I did not tell AI, give me a cartoon with white people living in bubbles watching TVs. That's what it gave me, okay? I'm just saying this is what AI gave me. Okay, not that I specified. All right. Okay, and in conclusion, I'm going to play two little music clips at the end. You've answered all the questions. If you want to leave now, leave now. If you want to stay for the post-credit scene, you can stay for the post-credit scene. We got two. One, we got this video of these little girls dancing, a little bit of a James Brown song. If this clip of girls dancing doesn't bring a smile to your face, you are not human. Okay, because I think this clip, it just brings joy to my heart. Okay, and then the last clip is I'm going to play the complete song, the song that is at the beginning of these current events videos, that really powerful guitar riff, that 60s kind of guitar riff. I'm going to play that song, and that's it. That's the last of these videos that I'm doing. I feel sad about it. Maybe you're happy, maybe you're sad. Anyway, we're done with the video stuff. Due Thursday, July 3rd.
Get past the people, get past the hitman. Get on down now. I wanna get on the good foot. Good foot. I got to get on the good foot. Going down to the crib and let all hang out. Where some people know what it's about done.
gente me da igual y tu niña mucho más. Niña, no te emociones. Niña, con los ojos llorones. Niña, vivo en mi cueva. Niña, solo eres una chica nueva. La gente me da igual y tu niña mucho más.